Hello everyone, my name is Liz, and I am going to share and explore with you this week's class that will focus on a highly politicized policy area, which is immigration policy. Just as you probably read in our first week's introduction, I am a second year doctoral student, and almost my entire professional career has focused on immigration. Also, immigration policy is part of my research interests, so hopefully I will be able to share with you some of the things I have learned along the way. So let's do it. This week's materials contain a reading from Aristide Solberg, a book published in 2008 named A Nation by Design. The chapter assigned is the number one themes and perspectives that basically introduces the book and reviews the main highlights in the history of the US immigration policy. This is a book that I highly recommend you to read if you find yourself more interested after reading chapter one. Other materials are from the Migration Policy Institute, which is one of the most important think tanks in within the migration area. One of these materials is a policy brief about some potential challenges for the immigration system in the country. The other is a timeline with major immigration laws from 1790 to 2013. This timeline will provide us with a clearer picture of how immigration laws change themes according to their social history and historical context. So I think you might find it very useful just to situate along the history these different blocks of themes within immigration laws. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it in a following slide. I am presenting to you other material, which is a link to a document elaborated by the Pew Research Center, which is one of the most respected institutions dedicated to immigration research. Probably some of you have heard about it. They also produce some of the main surveys and studies about the Hispanic population, which is the main single group of immigrants of the US. So I am including too a graphic where you will be able to see the percentage of immigrants living here by country of origin. Also, I think this graphic would be very informative for us. Finally, as you can read in the slide, the main objective will be to provide you with a comprehensive perspective. Of course, as much as the short readings and few readings can provide. Um, so it's I want to provide you like a comprehensive perspective on the U.S. immigration policy. Then that may help you to deepen your understanding of this policy area. Um, and I would like to elaborate a little bit about the content of these readings. So I will be very quick. Well, in A Nation by Design, Solberg conveys historical, political, anthropological, and economic perspectives on the topic of immigration in the United States and introduces relevant highlights in the process of thinking about immigration today. So, some of the questions that you might find an answer are like what occurred at the beginning when the United States was in formation? When did we start debating about immigration laws? Who were involved in those debates? What were the ideas or events that give shape and continue to give shape to immigration policy outcomes? He uses the concept nation by design to refer to the processes embedded in the building of the contemporary United States around immigration policy. So this reading provides a general introduction to the U.S. immigration system. Here in this slide, I am including some relevant ideas that are mentioned in his chapter one, like for example the notion of global population system and how and how it is part of a greater context, which is the international migration. So I think you will find it very useful to contextualize the immigration debate and how it has been growing in complexity since the beginning of the formation of the United States. In this slide, I am showing you three blocks that represent groups of laws that are characterized by a theme. This is not the only categorization, but it is easy to identify laws within a socio-historical context. Solberg talks about this, and the timeline that I am providing is particularly useful to have a taste of what US immigration laws were and are about. So, laws are divided in three blocks. The first refer to the nation building era that started with the Naturalization Act of 1790, and basically laws and policies mainly aimed to regulate who entered the country. British and Protestant were particularly welcome, and exclusionary laws prohibited immigration based on class and nationality, and also based on race. The second is the post war era, where, as you would read in the timeline, most policies welcome refugees, mostly from enemy states. Also, Asians are incorporated in the quota system. In this block, you will find the Refugee Act of 1980, that it's particularly important in our current context, because this law allows processing and admitting refugees and asylum seekers that are physically present at the US borders or in the country. The third block is characterized by shifting immigration towards a matter of national security. After 9/11, the narrative of immigration started to be related with terrorism. I think one milestone that clearly reflects this shift is the Homeland Security Act of 2002, where the recently created Department of Homeland Security absorbed almost all the functions of the U.S. Immigration and Naturalization Service, an agency that was previously under the Department of Justice. This agency became what we know today as the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, and the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. The Migration Policy Institute's concept note provides a larger perspective that put in context national and global challenges for the U.S. immigration system. This reading is short but substantive and hopefully interesting for you to read. Doris Meissner, who is the author, she was a she's a former commissioner of the U.S. Immigration and Naturalization Service. Mentions various challenges. For instance, here you can read, we have the decline and aging of the population, the rigidness of laws that prevent the US from recruiting and retaining the talents needed to grow its economy, challenges to enforcement in the US Mexico border that require a different kind of capabilities. They need to look at who are those immigrants that identify as unauthorized and that live in the country, and so on. Then this slide shows us the graphic I talked about at the beginning of the presentation, just to show you a quick look of how the immigrant population is comprised. Here you can see that Mexicans are the largest group of immigrants living in the US, followed by Indians and Chinese. But if you sum up all nationalities that come from Latin America, that can self identify as Latinos or Hispanics, they form the 36% of the total population of immigrants living in the US. Here, I am including views of immigration policy with information from the Pew Research Center. So, see if you click on the link, you can explore different views of Hispanics regarding current immigration policies. I think this information is relevant since as I mentioned in the previous slide, 36% of immigrants are Hispanics. So feel free to explore the website. Finally, this week there are two discussion questions. Please focus on answering one of them. However, if you prefer to answer both, you can do it, but it is not required. I hope you enjoy reading the materials. Thank you for your attention, and please feel free to email me with any comment or question. Thanks again, and have a wonderful week.